just like dust. They're not real. They're not. They capture the emotions, the excitement of people in a passing moment. But to quote him, as soon as the economy gets better, people move on from the trash and the frivolous to the academic and substantial. I wish that I shared this worldview. Then I would feel better about the countless hours of isolation and esoteric research. I wish that I could believe that the Cambridge book that sells 2,000 copies, mostly to libraries, with extensive footnotes and a masterful command of the sources and so on, is, in the long run, going to be far more effective than an impressionistic work written by someone who has numerous vested interests in a political, ideological dispute that finds Sharia as a convenient symbolic point to appeal to emotions. And here where the history becomes significant, and where I think the academic sort of aloofness, the vast majority of experts or academics on Islam, Islamic theology, Islamic philosophy, Islamic law, have refrained from entering this fray, from entering into this debate, from countering certain social facts on the ground, believing, for the most part, that it is a passing and meaningless moment. It is a moment of emotions and convenience, not of substance and permanent historical shifts. Well, we start, and I think an important point to start is the argument for the but-for cause. The various discourses that we find by the Stephen Emersons, the Robert Spencers, the Daniel Pipes, the Campus Watch folks, the Jihad Watch folks, the various pseudo-experts on whatever they wish to be experts on, does it make a difference? Does it actually have a concrete effect in any forum or context? And first, since in my career I have tended to start with the impact on human beings first, and then track backwards to sort of the intellectual roots of a problem, it is difficult to ignore the effect of a sustained discourse that fundamentally has one basic message. You slice it, dice it, whichever way you look at it, whichever way you want to slice it or dice it, fundamentally, when all is said and done, Islam has an unitary essence. This essence could be subject to change, but it needs, if it's possible at all, it literally needs the type of monumental effort witnessed perhaps in the 100-year war between the French and the British. Now, of course, the irony of this is at the same time that the Daniel Pipes, the Robert Spencers, the Stephen Emersons, the Glenn Becks, as I will read to you some of the quotes in a second, at the same time that they say, well, you know, in order for Muslims to prove to us that Islam can change, is capable of change, we need to see a virtual civil war between the moderates and the others, extremists, militants, whatever you want to call them, And something like, what's his name, that guy that writes in the New York Times, I forgot. Anyway, something akin to a religious civil war in the Muslim world. At the same time, they often point to any inter-Muslim violence as evidence of the failure of these people as a people. So, as we'll see from various quotes, the idea is, well, these people don't even respect each other's lives, so how would you expect them to respect anyone else's life? Now, this fundamental, essential message of Islam, which is argued to have been from the start to this day, one can politely ignore it, but the fact remains that it is a violent, totalitarian, dominating ideology. And that core, by its nature, creates what Pipes at least has called a stealth phenomena. And the stealth phenomena does not necessarily mean that all Muslims are stealth agents, but rather a stealth in the sense of sleeper cells. That Muslims just bring in the right set of elements, environmental elements, the right set of circumstance, and they will come into contact with this authentic core of their faith, and therefore immediately become prone to turning jihadi or violent or whatnot. Now, again, I return to the question, well, does it make a difference? Is there a causal effect, but for a direct cause or a proximate cause? Do academics, and here I talk to my colleagues as much as I'm talking to myself and to you, do academics need to be interested? Definitely, again, I can tell you that in numerous contexts, the attitude is, people will be people, there are bigots and hate mongers everywhere, every place. What difference does it make? It will pass. As I said, either the economy will get better, Obama will be not re-elected, something or another will happen, and you will have a shift. And, suddenly we're going to discover we have someone else to hate. Well, I think history takes issue with this, but before we get to history, there is a deluge of personal stories, literally a flood of personal stories that get practically no, well, not just practically, but literally no attention, whether from the media or academics, and largely is in the realm of the unconscious in the public discourses of today. And that is the effect of the Islamophobic, these hate tracks, whether in media or books or lectures or so on concrete individuals in variety of circumstance. And I'll just give you just pretty much just a recent sample of something I pulled off my shelves because there's so much of it. And I'll share these examples with you. March 19, 2008, Denmark. Dennis Osger Uzon, a 16-year-old Muslim, attacked by a group yelling anti-Islamic slurs, extremist, terrorist, assaulted with a baseball bat and a hammer. She died the following day after sustaining severe brain damage. UK, May 15, 2007. Esma Asma al-Din. It could be either Asma al-Din or Ismat al-Din, I'm not sure. It's spelled I-S-M-A in this text. A 23-year-old woman attacked by a gang again, repeatedly beaten, anti-Islamic slurs, extremist, terrorists, so on and so forth. She survived. She sustained a fractured eye socket, required surgery on her eyes and heads. January 14, 2007, the U.S., New York, a 26-year-old man of Yemeni ethnicity but a U.S. citizen, attacked by a gang. Victim was thrown to the ground, sustained a fracture under one eye, a broken nose, cuts requiring 6 stitches on his face, and staples to the back of his head. This one, UK again. September 15, 2007, 52-year-old Zohra Asimi. Zohra she's a woman. She owned a salon, a nail salon, of Iranian ethnicity, Persian ethnicity. 2 attackers forced their way into her store at gunpoint, slammed her head on a counter, shoved a towel in her mouth, smashed her hand with a hammer, sliced her face, neck, back, and chest with a knife and a box cutter, while calling her a terrorist and cursing at her and at Allah, interestingly. After having scrawled anti-Muslim messages on the mirrors and vandalizing the shop, they left. The police have not made arrests yet. This was in 2007. I want to put you, if you're not already, into a bit of the picture of horror that invites one to come out of their ivory tower. This again is a UK. This event in 2009, November 5th, is rather fascinating because this is a group of people who, City University, England, who prayed Friday congregational prayers in the basement of a building on the university. Thursday they are attacked by a gang of people yelling anti-Islamic slurs, etc., etc. There are minor energies. It's reported to the police. The police doesn't react, at least immediately. Then the second day, another attack. Again, the gang yells, slurs, throws bottles, rocks. One guy is hit with a stick. And then the police shows up and disperses the fight. Disperses both sides. The gang assaulting the students and the students and say, "Go home." After the police disperses the group, the gang circles around and intercepts 3 of the students and assaults them. And this time, 3 of the students are stabbed. One of them becomes permanently paralyzed after being stabbed in the spinal area. Actually, I misspoke. 4 people are stabbed, attacked by 30 people. This is after the police had dispersed them. The attack is with metal poles, bricks, and knives. Okay. Then the well-known case, at least to people like myself, of Yasser Abdul Muttalib. Yasser Abdul Muttalib is a PhD student. This fellow studying at Edinburgh, his 2 brothers studying at Oxford, accosted by a gang, again yelling anti-Islamic slurs, calling him a terrorist. Yasser was going to Friday prayers, so he was wearing a white garb, which apparently is what made the attackers target him as a Muslim. And this one doesn't end up with any good news at all, because the Yasser Abdul Muttalib is killed in the attack. He's beaten to death, basically. Then, of course, the famous case that I suspect some of you might have heard of in 2007. This is a famous case of the UK Imam at London Central Mosque, approached by a guy who claims that he wants to convert to Islam, and then he's attacked.